as a happy tale.
I am Bella Baxter, and there is a world to enjoy, circumnavigate. It is the goal of all to progress, grow.
A woman plotting her course to freedom. How delightful.
Aloha. This is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man. And last night, opening weekend of the, I'd say the new movie. It is a new movie that's out. It's finally been put into wide release, so it finally got here to Hawaii to most of the other theaters, other than the Kahala Mall, which unfortunately is the only one that really specializes in the artsy-fartsy movies. This A21 feature, Poor Things, stars Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, William Dafoe, and I believe Randy Youssef as well, as a whole host of other up-and-comers, along with veteran actors and actresses as well. And, well, without further ado, remember our rating scale. Shock a thumbs up. It's good to see. I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down. It's junk. I don't recommend it. And, well, for Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, it is overall shock a thumbs up. Let me just say, to be fair and to be honest, I was going to give this movie a shock a thumbs down after the first 20 minutes of the movie. However, by the end, it did convince me otherwise, that it is well worth a shock a thumbs up. However, I must caveat that saying that this movie is definitely and certainly not for everyone. And the critics agree, with a lot of people loving it, a lot of people hating it. And there's a lot to love in this movie, and there's a lot to hate. But regardless of whatever side of the fence you stand on, you cannot disregard Emma Stone's spectacular and brave performance in this movie. She definitely gives it her all in this performance. We see her nude for what I feel is the very first time. And we're talking full frontal nudity, not like long drawn out scenes, but there are several moments, for several seconds that you see, sure, she's probably wearing what do they call those? A minx or something down there, to kind of, camouflage it a little bit. But yeah, she's nude in a lot of scenes. And this movie is rated R for sexuality, definitely. There are a lot of scenes having sex, talking about sex, along with a little bit of violence and some blood. What is this movie about? You've seen the trailers. It seems very confusing. Well, to simplify it, honestly, this is a modern telling of My Fair Lady, in its most basic form. That is what you could compare it to. To move a little bit more advanced than that, take a Wes Anderson and Tim Burton concept of a movie mashed together. Say Grand Budapest Hotel, combined with parts and the feelings of Edward Scissor Hands, and throw in a liberal helping of Bride of Frankenstein, and you would have Poor Things. Emma Stone's is basically the Bride of Frankenstein, brought back to life from the dead However, with a unique twist, which I will not spoil for you in this movie. But yes, she is reanimated, given a second chance at life, a new life, as she arises back from the grave, completely tabula rasa, a blank slate to be taught and to learn everything new with fresh eyes and a new gaze and perspective in the world. A world which is, at the turn of the century, pre-industrial age. The horse and buggy is going out to the automobiles. The age of science and age of enlightenment is well upon us, which is kind of her William Dafoe's father, godlike figure who brings her back to life, the scientist that reanimates her and basically, gives a open, almost an open path for this new woman to explore the world. At first, he's resistant, wishing only to teach her herself or those he chooses for her to teach her the ways of the world. But he is intelligent enough and kind enough to, once she expresses a desire to explore the world on her own or through others, such as perhaps not as altruistic of individuals in her life that she comes across, Mark Ruffalo's character, who simply wants to take advantage of her naivety and her body. But this allows her to explore both the world and her own sexuality in the manners of love and carnal sex. He starts her off on that path, which she comes across only basically on her very, very own. And in doing so, she travels the world via ocean voyage and comes across others who support, an elderly old woman and her male companion that, teach her the value of higher thinking through reading great novelists and philosophical philosophers to enlighten her mind. And through that, when she ends up in Paris as a prostitute, after giving all of Mark Ruffalo's money away and leaving him destitute, all to help the poor, who, it is stated in this movie and even in the trailer that, people should continue to advance and grow and try to change for the better. And thus, when she sees destitute people, she wants to help them because there seems to be an altruistic value to her nature. Despite her initial naivety in not knowing cultural norms and such like that. Again, a very My Fair Lady kind of a scenario as she learns to go through certain social circles and also explores what it means to be a woman in a Victorian London, Victorian era kind of time throughout the world. Having such a great intellect that begins to flourish and be developed, but yet still being a woman and thus discriminated and wanted to be a mere plaything by certain males that she comes across. This explores all the avenues of that. And so if you're leaning a little bit towards more the feminist side of the house, this movie is definitely up your alley. If you are kind of liberal in your thinking, you'll definitely enjoy the exploration that this movie takes, along with the ideas of sexuality, of gender roles, economic, social circles, and overall humans' place in the world, along with their place with one another, and what they should do to benefit the world and themselves. So again, overall, a strong shock, a thumbs up, eventually, for this movie. It does turn me over. There are some ending parts of this movie that, if it had ended without like the very last bits of the third act, it might have been a little stronger, and that could be, that would have shown more of an altruistic side of her. Although, it does not look like she does certain things out of malice or evil per se. There is a certain particular part of this ending of this movie that people could take offense to, that it's like, oh, she could have turned the other cheek completely, and it didn't have to go to this darker realm, even though it is kind of presented lightly and loosely. It's enough to turn some people off, unfortunately. And I found myself, it's like, ooh, kind of, having to kind of take a breath and a moment there, when it's like, ooh, that's kind of, cruel, but, is it deserved? Yes. But this movie could have ended, it ends on a positive note, but it could have been a more altruistic, more positive, brighter, rosier picture than what it is left on, even though it is a positive ending, and perhaps some people will say a justified ending as well. But some could say it's very cruel and, kind of torturous in a way. But, that's your decision. I gave it a shock and thumbs up overall for the entire movie. Again, this movie might be too avant-garde, I feel, for the Academy Awards. So I'm not sure. I mean, I feel William Dafoe could get a nomination. Emma Stone should probably get a nomination for so much that she reveals and does and portrays as she goes through the emotional gambit in this movie. Even possibly Mark Ruffalo takes a very brave stance in the character that he portrays, and this is probably one of his better roles, definitely a media role than he's ever had in the past. So those three actors alone should get some kind of nod from the Academy. However, due to such a vigorous sexual sampling that this movie portrays, it might go under the radar and be ignored by the Academy. But then again, who knows? We'll see when awards time comes around. But it's definitely one that will be on, in the minds of some people, good and bad, for award contendings. But the overall presentation of this movie might obscure it from award nominations and victories, unfortunately. But overall, go ahead. If you like if you liked Bride of Frankenstein, if you liked, say, Grand Budapest Hotel, Edward Scissorhands, and you don't mind sex and nudity and vulgar language, you'll enjoy this movie for sure. Definitely don't take your young kids to see this movie. It is rated R, and a well-earned rated R at that. How it didn't get an NC-17, I'm not sure, but I guess no movies get NC-17s anymore. But, I didn't mind. I'm an adult. So it's all up to you to check it out. But I recommend it, especially if you're into that kind of thing. All right. So again, shock a thumbs up for Poor Things. Check it out, however, whenever you can. Definitely, it should be a hit on streaming at the very least, where you can watch it in the privacy of your own home. All right, mahalo and aloha and Merry Christmas.